Thank you, everyone. My speech is going to be a lot shorter because a lot of the points have already been brought up by my colleagues, friends, as well as Representative Filippi. We've all heard of the expression majority rule. We've all heard of it. We've also heard of the tyranny of the majority expression as well. But whenever we hear about the plurality rule, whenever we hear about the tyranny of the plurality, I bet you haven't heard of that before until today. Yeah, this is what we've been dealing with since this country has been founded. A lot of presidents were elected with plurality. A lot of governors, a lot of senators were elected with plurality of the vote. If we want to have a representative system and we actually stay true to the idea of majority rule, we would want something like instant runoff voting, something like ranked choice voting. These are synonyms. So I come from Ukraine. And even in Ukraine, we have instant runoff voting for presidential elections. Because of instant runoff voting, we were actually able, I'm not Ukrainian anymore, we were able to have the Orange Revolution in 2004, because when they did the second ballot recounts, there's been some shenanigans that people were able to catch on to, that the Russian-backed president was actually, screwing around with the vote. So that allowed people to go out in the streets and revolt. So I would like to express my support for this bill, and think of all the positive things that this is going to bring. We're going to have more positive elections, because you don't want to alienate the entire base. You don't want to alienate the base of the person that you're running against, because they can still rank you as a second choice. You don't want to run negative ads, so it's going to cost us less money to run elections. It's going to alienate a lot less voters. It's going to bring a lot of apathetic voters in, because they will know that their vote is going to count. Even if their vote for that 5% candidate, it's still a statement, and if whoever wins by instant runoff voting, that person is going to have a larger consensus, is going to have a larger mandate to govern, because there's going to be a broader amount of people that agreed on this candidate, even if that candidate wasn't their first choice to begin with. When Maine, I volunteered for the Maine campaign last year, and I would go to Boston to phone bank into Maine to have them pass this measure. And 9 times out of 10, people understood what I was saying. And, it was relatively easy to educate them. I would just bring up the 2000 election. Ralph Nader is still considered a spoiler. The logical option, I guess, for people would be to rank Ralph Nader first and Al Gore second, or vice versa. If we had that system, maybe we wouldn't have George Bush and 2 illegal wars. I don't want to get political. I think this bill is, it's a bipartisan issue. Even if this bill can become politicized, it's a bipartisan issue. I believe that even if you look at the 2016 election, you probably can't see this. It says that 2016 Republican primary election, Mr. Trump won with 44% of the vote. He won the plurality. So this was the first time when ranked choice voting could have actually prevented Mr. Trump from becoming president, if people happen to not be fans of his. And then in the general election, we had 5 states total where the amount of people that voted for third parties was actually more than the margin of win of Mr. Trump over Hillary Clinton. It's Florida, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and even Arizona. So if we had ranked choice voting across the country, we're going to have a more representative democracy. We're going to have people who can vote their conscience without splitting the vote, without being angry at I'm voting just because against. So we want to alleviate voter apathy, and I believe that this bill is going to be a great step in the right direction. I do have a couple of comments on the bill itself. I believe it could and can include U.S. Senator and U.S. Representative elections, just like the Maine bill does, the Maine ballot measure does, as well as the presidential election. And the bill also says election by plurality or majority. I assumed in this context the terms are contradictory. I guess if you win with a majority, you automatically win with plurality, but not vice versa. So I'm not really sure if somebody wins by plurality, what does that do to the majority language? But maybe I'm just confused about that. So I believe that this bill is a strong indicator that Rhode Island should be at the forefront of this more representative voting system, and I I urge everybody to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Peter? All right, thank you all very much.
I just want to answer his question,
Great testimony.
please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you asked why it says majority or plurality. It's majority or plurality, tough word, because we're only changing general officers and members of the General Assembly. And so if you look at the second paragraph down, all other elections for city, town, district officers, et cetera, are still by plurality.
Got it.
I'd like to do the whole thing, but sometimes a half a loaf is better than nothing.
Yeah. We don't want the perfect to become the enemy of the good, so I get what you're saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We